So our lesson is on factoring polynomials. Factoring polynomials is a guide to undoing multiplication of polynomials. It's the opposite of multiplying. In other words, it's all about finding the dimensions. So as we just said, let's review and talk about what is a factor. If I could spell. So factors are numbers or terms that divide evenly into a quantity. So, for example, list all the factors of. So let's look at 3 examples. So the first one, 18. The second one is 9x. And then the third one is 10x squared y. So what I do when it comes to factoring is I like to break things down into lowest terms. Like 18, for example. How does 18 break down? Well, 18, one way to break down is 2. I know 2 goes into 18 evenly. So 2 times 9 gives me 18. But is 9 as low as it can go? So the answer is no, it's not. So let's keep breaking it down. So how does 9 break down? 9 breaks down to 3 times 3. So 18 is 2 times 3 times 3. So I've listed all the factors of 18, or I've listed what's called the prime factors. So what about 9x? Well, factors of 9 are 1 and 9, and 9 can break down even further, so 9 breaks down to 3 and 3. So if I want to list this in factors, my factors are 3 times 3, but then notice how there's this x here. So 3 times 3 times x are my factors of 9x. So what about 10x squared y? Well, let's start with factors of 10. 10 breaks down to 1 and 10 would work, but 10 breaks down even further than that. So what about 2 and 5? Those two numbers are as low as they can go. X squared. So x squared is x times x and then y. So now I have listed all my factors of 10x squared y. So how is this related to what we're going to be getting into? Well, another vocabulary word that we have to talk about is what we call greatest common factor. Or GCF for short. So greatest common factor is the largest number or term that divides evenly into a set of terms. So for example, What is the GCF of? Twelve and 9. 18 and 36. 9x and 81. 18x squared y. And 36 x cubed y. So we're looking for the biggest number that divides into these terms evenly. So if I take 12 and 9, well, what is the GCF of 12 and 9? What is the largest number that divides evenly into 12 and 9? First off, I start with the number 9. So I start with the smallest number. And I ask myself, will 9 divide evenly into 12? The answer is no, it won't. So then I have to go, okay, what else could work? So the only thing that it can be is 3. The greatest common factor that both 12 and 9 have in common is 3. So it has a GCF of 3. So what about 18 and 36? So again, I ask myself, will 18 divide evenly into 36? The answer is yes, it will. 18 will divide evenly into 36 because 18 times 2 is 36. So 18 is my GCF because 18 divides into itself and 18 divides into 36. So what about C? Well, in this situation, notice how I have a 9x and I have an 81. So again, if you start with the number here, ask yourself, first off, will 9 go evenly into 81? And the answer is yes. So what is my GCF going to have to be? Well, the only thing it can be is 9. Even though this one has an x, this one does not have an x. And let me show you by listing out the factors. So 9 can break down to 3 times x, and 81 breaks down into 9 and 9, but every 9 has 2 3s. So what are all the common factors? What do both of these have in common? So they have the 2 3s that are in common. So we have a GCF of 3 times 3, or 9. So in this example, if I break down into factors, so 18 is 2 and 9, and 9 is 3 and 3. Then I have the x, and the y. And then 36, 6 and 6. 6 is 2 and 3. And 2 and 3. And then I have the 3 x's and the 1 y. So if I circle everything or highlight what they have in common, so they each have a 2 in common. They each have a 3 in common. They each have an x, another x, and a y. Oh, hey, and I missed out on this 3. They also each have this other 3 in common. So what is my GCF of these two? It appears that my GCF is 2 times 3 times 3, or 18x squared y. So let's talk about what's going to come next. Now that we understand what factors are and now that we understand about GCFs, All of this has to do with factoring. So in your next video, you are going to learn about the first step of factoring and how to factor.